The first time Mateo promised safety, it sounded like a prayer. They were standing in the narrow hallway of their apartment in Mesa, shoulder to shoulder because the space didn't allow anything else. The air conditioner rattled like it was losing an argument with the heat. A plastic crucifix hung crooked above the bathroom door. Sofia's hand shook as she held her phone, thumb hovering over a news clip. Another video of flashing lights, another family pulled apart in a parking lot, another mother screaming a name that wouldn't answer. Mateo took the phone from her gently, like he was taking a knife away from someone who didn't know they were bleeding. "Look at me," he said. Sofía looked. His eyes were dark and steady, the kind of eyes that made you believe in plans, in roofs, in tomorrow. "I swear," he told her, "I'll do everything so you're safe. Everything." In the beginning, that promise felt like love. In the beginning, Sofía let herself lean into it. Because the truth was, fear had moved in with them long before the furniture did. It slept between them sometimes. It sat at their kitchen table with its elbows spread wide. It watched them count cash at the end of the month, watched them decide which bills could wait. It watched them flinch when sirens passed too close. They were not new to fear. They were just tired of it. Sofía had come to Arizona years ago, following a chain of cousins and jobs and survival, the same way people follow a river in a desert, because stopping meant dying. Mateo had been here longer. He'd been a teenager when he crossed, alone, with a phone number scribbled on paper and the taste of dust stuck in his mouth. He'd learned English the hard way, through bosses who spoke fast and customers who spoke louder when he didn't understand the first time. They had built a life in fragments, a used couch from Facebook Marketplace, a set of plates mismatched but clean, a second-hand stroller when their son was born. Their son, Nico, was the only thing in their world that felt uncomplicated. He was 5 now, small and fast, with a laugh that made Sofía forget her own heartbeat. He sang nonsense songs in the back seat. He asked questions like the world had never hurt anyone. "Why is the sun angry?" he asked once, squinting up at the blazing Arizona sky. "It's not angry," Sofía said. "It's just strong." Mateo said nothing, but later that night he looked up the forecast anyway, as if heat could be negotiated with enough information. That was Mateo. He believed fear could be managed if he held it tightly enough. And, for a while, Sofía mistook that for love. The shift didn't happen all at once. It came in small rules that sounded reasonable, like an adult voice in a room full of panic. At first, it was, "Don't go out late." Then, "If you go out, take the main roads." Then, "If you go out, text me when you get there." Sofía did it. It was easy at first. She texted him little check-ins from the grocery store aisle, balancing Nico on her hip while he begged for cereal with a cartoon shark on the box. Mateo would reply with a thumbs up and a heart. Then the rules became layered, like plastic wrap over a mouth. Don't drive if you can avoid it. Don't take Nico to the park right now. Don't go to that side of town. Don't talk to people you don't know. Sofía tried to push back in gentle ways. She made jokes. "What, you think I'm going to join a gang at Target?" she teased, holding up a bag of diapers. Mateo didn't smile. "It's not funny," he said. "You don't understand." That was the first crack in their language, how he used understand like a weapon and a shield at the same time. Sofía understood plenty. She understood the way certain cars slowed when they passed their apartment complex. She understood the way some men wore uniforms like they owned the air. She understood the way a traffic stop could turn into a life sentence in a heartbeat, depending on luck and skin and paperwork. What Mateo didn't understand was that she was tired of living like a shadow. One night they sat at the kitchen table while Nico slept in the bedroom. The table was sticky from juice Nico had spilled earlier. Mateo's phone was face up between them, like a third person listening. A friend had sent a message. Something about a checkpoint rumor. A cousin's neighbor's friend. A van seen near a gas station. Mateo read it and his jaw hardened. "We're not going out tomorrow," he decided. Sofía blinked. "Tomorrow is Nico's school thing." Mateo looked at her like she'd said she wanted to jump off a bridge. "They'll understand." "No," Sofía said, voice sharper than she meant. "They won't. Nico is already the kid whose dad doesn't come inside sometimes. He asks me why." Mateo's mouth twitched like he tasted something bitter. "I'm trying to protect us," he said. "I know," Sofía said, "but I'm not asking you to go. I'm going." Mateo leaned forward. "Sofía, don't." The way he said it wasn't a request. It was a warning. She felt something in her chest rise up, hot and restless. "I can't keep shrinking," she said. "I'm not a secret." Mateo's eyes flashed. "You are not listening." Sofía laughed once, sharp. "And you are. You hear yourself. Every day it's don't, don't, don't. You say safe, but it feels like a cage." Mateo stood so fast his chair scraped the tile. "You want a cage? You want to see what happens if you're not careful?" His voice climbed. He rarely yelled, which somehow made it worse. Sofía stood too, matching him without thinking. "I want to live." Mateo stared at her, breathing hard. His hands were shaking now. Not anger, terror. He pressed his palms to the table like the table could hold him down. "You don't know what it's like," he said, voice lower, wrecked. "You don't know what it feels like to lose everything in 1 minute." Sofía's throat tightened. She did know. Not exactly his story, not every scar, but she knew fear. She had carried it across borders inside her ribs. "What happened to you," she said softly, "was real. But you don't get to turn it into my prison." Mateo flinched as if she'd slapped him. They didn't speak after that. Not really. They moved around each other like careful strangers in the same small apartment, both pretending the air wasn't heavy. In bed, Mateo faced the wall. Sofía lay awake, listening to the AC rattle and Nico's small breaths from the other room. For the first time, Mateo's promise didn't sound like love. It sounded like ownership. 2 weeks later, Sofía got an email that made her hands go cold. "Congratulations. You've been selected for an interview." The community college program, medical assisting, a pathway, a real step. It was the kind of thing she'd stopped letting herself want, because wanting had felt dangerous. But the email sat there glowing like a doorway. She read it twice, 3 times. She imagined herself in scrubs, moving through bright hallways, earning enough to stop counting pennies in the dark. She imagined telling Nico, one day, "Mommy helps people." She imagined a life where fear wasn't the loudest voice in the room. Mateo came home from work sweaty and tired, smelling like concrete dust. He kissed Nico's forehead and ruffled his hair. Then he leaned over Sofía's shoulder and saw the email. His body went still. "What is that?" he asked. Sofía turned in her chair slowly, like she'd been caught holding fire. "It's an interview," she said, "for the program." Mateo's eyes moved across the screen, then back to her. "Where?" "Tempe," she said. "The campus." "How are you getting there?" Sofía swallowed. "I can take the bus." Mateo's face tightened. "No." Sofía's spine stiffened. "Mateo." He stepped closer, voice urgent. "No, not right now. Not with everything going on?" "Everything going on?" Sofía echoed. "You mean rumors and panic and—" "It's not rumors," Mateo snapped. Then he caught himself, lowered his voice. "It's real. You think they don't look for people exactly like us?" "Like me," Sofía corrected quietly. Mateo's nostrils flared. His hands flexed at his sides like he wanted to grab something and couldn't decide what. "We can't risk it," he said. Sofía stood up slowly. "I'm not asking permission." Mateo stared at her, stunned, like the ground had moved under him. "What did you say?" he asked. Sofía met his eyes. "I said I'm going." Mateo's voice rose without him meaning it to. "Are you trying to get taken? Is that what this is?" Sofía recoiled. "Don't you dare!" "I'm serious," Mateo said, stepping closer. "Do you know what happens if—" "If," Sofía cut in, shaking. "If, that's all you live on. You're feeding on fear." Mateo looked like she'd pulled something out of him he didn't want to see. "I'm protecting you," he insisted. "I made you a promise." "And I'm suffocating," Sofía said. Her voice cracked. "Your promise is choking me." Mateo's eyes got glassy, but his jaw stayed hard. "You go," he said, voice low, "and you're telling me you don't care about our family." Sofía blinked. "What?" "You're saying your interview matters more than us." "That's not—" Sofía's mouth trembled. "That's not fair." Mateo pointed at the screen. "This is not a game. You don't get to gamble with our lives." Sofía's chest burned. "And you don't get to gamble with my future." Mateo's voice sharpened. "Future? What future if you're gone?" The word "gone" landed like a curse. Nico in the living room looked up from his toy cars. His eyes moved between them. Sofía saw her son watching, saw his little face pulling in confusion, trying to decode adult fear. Her anger drained into something colder. "We'll talk later," she said, forcing her voice steady. Mateo laughed once, bitter. "No, Sofía. There is no later. There's only what you choose right now." She stared at him. This man she loved, this man who carried his terror like a holy duty. And she realized something with sudden clarity. Mateo wasn't asking her to be careful. He was asking her to disappear. And if she agreed, she might never come back to herself. On the morning of the interview, Sofía woke before dawn. The apartment was dark and quiet. The air was cold in that desert way, cold that pretended the sun wasn't coming. Mateo lay on his back, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. Sofía froze. "You're awake." "I didn't sleep," he said. The silence between them felt rehearsed, like it had been waiting. Sofía moved carefully, brushing her hair, pulling on the one blouse that made her feel like a woman with options. She packed a folder with her documents, letters, a notebook she'd written her answers in. Mateo watched her like every movement was a betrayal. "You're really doing it," he said. Sofía didn't turn around. "Yes." Mateo sat up. His voice was raw now. "Why are you doing this to me?" Sofía finally looked at him. "To you?" Mateo's face twisted. "You know what this does. You know what it feels like." Sofía held her folder tighter. "You're not the only one with fear, Mateo. You're just the only one letting it drive." Mateo stood, pacing the tiny bedroom. "If something happens—" "Stop," Sofía said. "Don't put that on me. Don't make me responsible for your nightmares." Mateo stopped pacing. His eyes were wet. His hands shook. "I can't lose you," he whispered. There it was. The core. Not control for power, control for survival. Sofía's throat tightened. For a moment, she wanted to drop the folder, crawl back into bed, press her face into his chest, and promise she'd never leave the apartment again. But then she saw Nico's backpack on the chair by the door, saw the little superhero keychain dangling from the zipper. What did she want Nico to learn? That love meant shrinking? That safety meant silence? Sofía stepped closer to Mateo, voice gentle but firm. "I love you," she said, "but I'm not going to live trapped." Mateo swallowed hard. "So what? You just go and I sit here waiting for a call that—" "No," Sofía said. "You don't wait. You come with me." Mateo stared. "What?" "Come," she said again. "Not inside, not if you don't want. But come. Ride the bus with me. Sit outside. Be there." Mateo shook his head immediately, panic flickering. I can't be seen." You're seen every day, Sofía said, frustration leaking in. You work, you drive, you exist. Because I have to, he said. Because I'm the one who handles things. Sofía's eyes narrowed. Handles things? You mean controls everything? Mateo's face hardened like armor snapping into place. Fine, go. The word was sharp, dismissive, like he was pushing her off a cliff. Sofía stared at him, shocked by the coldness. Mateo, she began. Go, he repeated, since you don't care what I say. Sofía's heart pounded. She realized that this wasn't just fear anymore. It was punishment. She walked out of the bedroom without another word. Nico sat on the couch watching cartoons with the volume low. He looked up at Sofía, smiled. Mommy, you look pretty, he said. Sofía's eyes stung. Gracias, mi amor, she whispered, kissing his forehead. Be good for Papa today. Nico nodded solemnly, like he had a job. Sofía grabbed her bag, her folder, and stepped outside. The hallway smelled like cleaning chemicals and someone's fried breakfast. The sun wasn't fully up yet, but the sky was already bruising pink. Sofía felt fear follow her down the stairs like footsteps. She forced herself not to run. At the bus stop, she sat with her folder on her lap, watching cars pass. Every engine sounded too loud. Every siren in the distance made her muscles tighten. She thought of Mateo in the apartment, tense as a wire. She thought of her interview, the panel, the questions. She thought of Nico's small voice. Mommy, you look pretty. The bus arrived with a sigh of brakes. Sofía stepped on, paid, sat near the window. As it pulled away, she saw her apartment complex shrinking behind her, and with it the version of herself that only existed inside walls. She inhaled. She told herself, You're not doing something wrong by wanting more. The interview went better than she expected. The campus was bright and clean, the kind of place where people walked like they assumed they belonged. Sofía kept her chin up. She answered questions carefully. She smiled when she needed to. When they asked why she wanted the program, her voice steadied. Because I want to build something, she said. For my family, for myself. When they asked what challenges she faced, she paused, then spoke honestly without exposing wounds. I've had to be resilient, she said. I've had to be organized, and I've had to keep going even when I'm afraid. One interviewer, a woman with gray streaks in her hair, watched her closely. Afterward, as Sofía walked back to the bus stop, her hands trembled. But it wasn't panic. It was adrenaline. It was hope. She texted Mateo a simple message. Done. I'm okay. No reply. She stared at her phone until the screen dimmed. The bus ride home felt longer. The sun climbed higher. The heat rose. Sofía wiped sweat from her upper lip and tried not to imagine 100 worst-case scenarios. When she finally stepped off the bus near their complex, her stomach was tight. She walked up the stairs. Unlocked the door. Inside, the apartment was too quiet. Nico sat at the small table with crayons. He looked up, smiled, but it was smaller than usual. Mommy, he said softly. Hi, baby, Sofía said, dropping her bag. Where's Papa? Nico shrugged. He left. Sofía's heart dropped. Left where? Nico looked down at his paper. He said he had to go. A cold wave moved through Sofía's body. She tried to keep her voice calm. Did he seem mad? Nico nodded slightly. He said you don't listen. Sofía's throat tightened. She pulled Nico into her arms, breathing in the warm, crayon-scented hair. It's okay, she whispered. It's okay. But it didn't feel okay. An hour passed, then 2. Sofía called Mateo. Straight to voicemail. She called again. No answer. By late afternoon, the sun turned the windows into glowing rectangles. Sofía's imagination began to sprint. Had he been stopped? Had something happened? Had he made a reckless decision out of panic? When the door finally opened, Sofía almost cried in relief until she saw his face. Mateo walked in like a storm that had learned to wear a human body. His eyes were red, his jaw was clenched. His hands shook like he'd been gripping a steering wheel too hard. "Where were you?" Sofía demanded, fear turning into anger. Mateo tossed his keys onto the counter. "Don't what?" Sofía snapped. "Don't ask where my husband disappears to for hours?" Mateo's eyes flashed. "You think you're the only one who can do whatever you want?" Sofía stared. "What are you talking about?" Mateo took a step closer, voice low and brutal. "I went to see what you were doing." Sofía's blood went cold. "You followed me." Mateo's face twisted. "I had to know." "That's not love," Sofía whispered. "That's surveillance." Mateo slammed his palm on the counter. Nico flinched at the table. "Don't say that," Mateo shouted. He caught himself, glanced at Nico, then lowered his voice but kept the sharpness. "You don't understand what you did." Sofía stepped toward him, anger rising. "What I did? I went to an interview, Mateo." "An interview?" Mateo laughed, bitter. "And you think that's all? You think you just walk around like everything is normal? Like there aren't people out there waiting?" "Stop," Sofía said. "You're turning my life into a crime scene." Mateo's eyes were wild. "Because it is. One mistake and—" "And what?" Sofía interrupted, voice shaking. "And you get to say, 'I told you so,' while I lose myself?" Mateo stared at her, breathing hard. "I saw you." Sofía blinked. "What?" "I saw you on campus," Mateo said. "Smiling, talking, like you're free." Sofía's stomach turned. "So, you were there." Mateo's face tightened. "You looked happy." Sofía stared at him, stunned by the jealousy in his voice, not of another person but of a version of her that wasn't terrified. Mateo swallowed hard. "And I hated it." The honesty landed like broken glass. Sofía whispered, "Why?" Mateo's voice cracked. "Because if you can be happy out there, then maybe you don't need me." Sofía's eyes stung. "Mateo." He shook his head like he couldn't stop the words now. "I kept you safe," he said. "I did everything. I watched everything. His voice broke. "I can't breathe when you're not here." Sofía's anger faltered, replaced by something heavy and sad. Mateo wasn't trying to hurt her because he was cruel. He was hurting her because his fear had grown teeth. Sofía looked at Nico, small and silent at the table, listening too closely. She lowered her voice. "You can't put your anxiety on my throat," she said. "You can't make my world smaller so yours feels bigger." Mateo's eyes filled. "So what? You just leave? You just—" Sofía's voice sharpened. "No, but something has to change." Mateo wiped his face roughly like he was angry at his own tears. "You're choosing this," he accused softly. "You're choosing risk." Sofía shook her head. "I'm choosing life." Mateo laughed once, broken. "Life? Like that's something we're allowed." Sofía stepped closer, voice steady. "We're allowed, and we're going to stop acting like we're not." Mateo looked at her like she was speaking a language he wanted to believe in but didn't trust. Sofía reached out, touched his arm. He didn't pull away, but he didn't relax either. "Mateo," she said quietly, "your fear is real, but it's not a boss. It doesn't get to run this family." Mateo's mouth trembled. "I don't know how to turn it off." Sofía nodded. "Then we learn. Together. Or we drown." The word drown hung between them. Mateo's shoulders sagged like something inside him finally admitted exhaustion. "I tried," he whispered. "I know," Sofía said, "but trying isn't the same as healing." That night, after Nico was asleep, Sofía and Mateo sat on the couch in the dim light of the TV, not watching anything. The room smelled like dish soap and the lavender lotion Sofía used on Nico's elbows. Outside, a car passed with music too loud. Someone laughed in the parking lot. normal life, happening inches away. Mateo stared at his hands. "When I was younger," he said slowly, "I got stopped once, driving home from work. I had done nothing. Nothing." Sofía didn't speak. She let him open the door on his own pace. "The officer kept asking questions," Mateo continued, voice tight. "Where are you going? Where do you work? Whose car is this?" Like my answers were a test. Sofía's chest tightened. "I remember the feeling," Mateo said. "My whole body sweating. My heart." He pressed a hand to his sternum. "I thought, this is it. This is the minute my life ends." He swallowed hard. He let me go. But he didn't have to. Sofía reached for his hand. Mateo's fingers were cold. "That minute never left me," Mateo whispered. "It's in me. It's always in me." Sofía squeezed his hand. "I know." Mateo looked at her, eyes pleading. "So when you leave, it's like I'm back there, like I'm watching the world decide if we get to stay." Sofía felt tears slip down her face. She wiped them away quickly. "I hate that you carry that," she said, "but I can't carry it for you by disappearing." Mateo's lips pressed together. He nodded slowly, like it hurt to agree. "So, what do we do?" he asked. Sofía inhaled. "We make a plan that isn't just, don't live." Mateo's eyes flickered, suspicious and hopeful at the same time. Sofía continued. "Practical now, grounding. We get real legal advice from someone reputable. We stop relying on rumors. We learn what's real and what's panic." Mateo flinched. "Talking to people is risky." "Living is risky," Sofía said. "But we can be smart without being trapped." Mateo stared at the floor. "And if something happens?" Sofía's voice softened. "Then we have a plan. We know who to call. We make sure Nico is okay. We don't pretend fear isn't there. We just don't let it drive." Mateo's breathing slowed a fraction. "And," Sofía added, "you need help, Mateo. Not because you're broken, because you're human." Mateo's eyes filled again. "Therapy," he whispered like it was a dangerous word. Sofía nodded. "Maybe. Or a support group. Or someone who understands trauma. But you can't keep locking us down because your fear is screaming." Mateo pressed his knuckles to his lips. He looked like he was fighting something inside himself. Finally, he nodded, small and shaky. "I don't want to lose you," he said. Sofía leaned her forehead against his. "Then stop trying to keep me by shrinking me." Mateo let out a sound that was half sob, half breath. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Sofía closed her eyes. "I need more than sorry," she said. "I need change." Mateo nodded again, harder this time. "Okay." It wasn't a magical fix. It wasn't a movie ending. It was just a man sitting in the dim light admitting his fear had crossed a line. But in a life built on fragile things, even that admission felt like a brick. Weeks passed. Mateo didn't transform overnight. His anxiety didn't vanish. Some mornings he still woke up with the same tightness in his chest. Some days, a siren still made him go quiet. But Sofía noticed small shifts. The first time she left for class orientation, Mateo didn't try to stop her. He walked her to the bus stop, hands shoved in his pockets, scanning the street like a guard dog. He looked miserable. But he stood beside her anyway. Sofía watched him, heart aching. "You don't have to do this," she said softly. Mateo shook his head. "I do," he said. "I have to learn." When the bus arrived, Sofía stepped on, then turned back. Mateo lifted a hand. Not a command, not a warning. Just a wave. Sofía pressed her palm to the glass. It wasn't freedom yet. But it wasn't a cage either. At home, Mateo started cooking again. Simple meals, beans and rice and chicken, the way his mother used to. It wasn't about tradition. It was about giving his hands something to do besides tremble. He stopped reading every rumor in group chats. He deleted 2 of them entirely after Sofía asked him to. He didn't like it. He did it anyway. One night, Nico asked, "Why do you get sad sometimes, Papa?" Mateo froze. Sofía held her breath. Mateo crouched to Nico's level, voice careful. "Sometimes Papa worries too much," he said. Nico frowned. "About what?" Mateo glanced at Sofía, then back at Nico. "About keeping you safe," he said. Nico thought about that, then reached out and touched Mateo's cheek with a small hand. "I'm safe," Nico said simply. "You're here." Mateo's eyes filled. He hugged Nico so tightly Sofía had to remind him to breathe. Later, when Nico was asleep, Mateo sat at the kitchen table and said quietly, "I don't want him to grow up scared." Sofía nodded. "Then we stopped teaching him fear is love." Mateo stared at the table for a long time, then whispered, "Okay." The day the acceptance email arrived, Sofía screamed. Not a horror scream, a joy scream, the kind that punches through walls. Mateo rushed in from the bedroom, panic on his face. "What happened?" Sofía held out her phone, laughing and crying at the same time. "I got in," she said. "Mateo, I got in." Mateo stared at the screen, then at her, like he didn't know which reality to trust. Sofía stepped closer, eyes shining. "This is good," she said. "This is good." Mateo's throat moved. He blinked hard. Then, slowly, he reached out and pulled her into his arms. He held her like he was afraid she'd vanish, but the grip felt different now. Not a cage, a grounding. "I'm proud of you," he whispered into her hair. Sofía froze. Mateo didn't say those words often. Pride had felt too close to letting go. She pulled back, searched his face. Mateo looked like someone standing at the edge of a cliff, choosing not to jump. "I'm scared," he admitted. Sofía nodded. "I know." Mateo swallowed. "But maybe we can be scared and still move." Sofía's eyes filled. She touched his cheek. "Yes," she whispered. "That's the whole point." Mateo let out a shaky laugh like he didn't recognize his own hope. The fear didn't disappear. It never fully does, not when you've lived under a sky that can split open with flashing lights. Some days Mateo still tried to tighten the rules without realizing it. "Text me when you get there," he'd say too sharply. Sofía would pause, breathe, then answer calmly. "I will, but you don't get to interrogate me." Mateo would flinch, then nod. "Right, sorry." Sometimes Sofía had to remind him, "You're spiraling." Sometimes Mateo had to admit, "I'm spiraling." They learned to name it, and naming it took away some of its power. They wrote down emergency contacts in a notebook and put it in a drawer, not like a doom prophecy but like a fire extinguisher, something you hope you never use, but you don't pretend fire can't exist. They stopped treating fear like the only truth. And slowly, love began to take up space again. Not the easy love from the beginning, the love that laughed at cultural differences and believed in simple promises. This was a heavier love, a more intentional love, the kind that says, "I see your terror. I won't mock it, but I won't obey it either." One evening, Sofía and Mateo sat outside on the apartment steps while Nico rode his scooter in circles, the desert sky turning orange like it was on fire. Nico zipped past them, laughing. Mateo watched him, eyes soft. Sofía leaned into Mateo's shoulder. Mateo stiffened for a second, old reflex, then relaxed. "I used to think safety meant stopping everything," Mateo said quietly. Sofía hummed. "And now?" Mateo exhaled, long. "Now I think safety might mean building anyway." Sofía smiled slightly. "Yeah." Mateo glanced at her. "Are you still mad at me?" Sofía considered, honest. "Sometimes," she said, "but I'm also proud of you." Mateo looked down, embarrassed. Sofía nudged him with her shoulder. "It's hard to unlearn fear." Mateo nodded. It's hard to let you be free." Sofia's smile faded into something serious. "I'm not leaving you behind," she said, "but I'm not staying trapped with you." Mateo swallowed. "I know." They sat in silence for a moment, listening to Nico's wheels click over cracks in the pavement. A siren sounded far away, distant, fading. Mateo's body tensed automatically. Sofía felt it. She laced her fingers through his. Mateo inhaled. Then he exhaled slowly, deliberately, like someone practicing a new language. "I'm here," he said. Sofía squeezed his hand. "You're here," she echoed. Nico rode up, cheeks flushed, eyes bright. "Watch this," he shouted. He pushed off, zooming away, fearless and loud. Mateo and Sofía watched him like he was a miracle. And maybe he was, because in a world that tried to teach them to disappear, their son was learning to take up space. And for the first time in a long time, Mateo let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, love could be stronger than the fear that once ate everything. Not because the fear was gone, but because they stopped letting it lead.